Shalom, and welcome to What the Watchman Sees, a ministry that will sift through all of the social media noise to show you news of importance from the Most High's perspective. As watchmen, we are here both to warn of dangers and give biblical answers for dwelling in the secret place of the Most High during these times of confusion. Tell your family and friends to like, share, and subscribe as we delve into what Yahweh has for us, the apple of His eye. Let's get to work. Shabbat Shalom. On this Shabbat, we're going to continue and expound on a meditation that we have done in the past, Psalm 91. We're going to look at the verses. So Psalm 91 starts with, "He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide in the shadow of the Almighty." The secret place of the Most High in our meditation for this Shabbat can be many different things, but we would like to focus on the secret place being what we call our prayer closet. In other words, whenever we want to move into the secret place of the Most High, that has to be done in the Spirit. That has to be done by prayer. So in church culture, we've heard about the prayer closet. That's very close to what the secret place of the Most High is. And so we're just going to read the scriptures and meditate on what that has for us on this Shabbat. So it starts out in verse 1, Psalm 91, verse 1. "He who dwells in the shelter or the secret place of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty." So when we go to the closet, the prayer closet, we're going into the Most High's place of shelter for us, and we're abiding in His shadow, the shadow of His wings, if you will. Verse 2 says, "I will say to Yahweh, you are my refuge and my fortress, my God," or my Elohim, "in whom I trust." We have been hearing time and time again in what the Father has for us that there are many gods. Okay, so when we say my God, the way that we can understand it best is how we have identified who that is, since a God just means an object of worship. But when we go into His secret place, we don't want to go into just any object of worship. We want to go into the secret place of the Most High, and He has a name as far as His people are concerned, and that name is Yahuwah or Yahweh. So I will say to Yahuwah, when I go into the secret place, you're my refuge and my fortress. If you look at the bottom picture here, this is the equivalent of a secret place of the Most High in the spirit realm. In other words, it's a strong tower. It is a fortress. And that's why when we say to Him, you are my refuge and my fortress, back in the day when our ancestors were first coming into the blessing of being called the children of Yasharel, they lived in tents, but they also lived in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem was a fortified city. So whenever they needed protection from enemies, although when I say tents, temporary shelters, but the main part of the nation was symbolized in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem was a walled city. So that's why when it says you are my refuge and my fortress, whenever we need protection, whenever our ancestors needed protection, they would go inside the city gates and be protected by that wall, but also by the forces that were inside the wall designed to provide protection for them. So when we say to the Most High, you are my refuge and my fortress, that's what our ancestors understood. And we can use that same analogy, if you will, for our own relationship with Him in these times that we live in. So we understand that you're my object of worship. You're my Elohim, and I trust you. what is the trust about? The trust is that you will protect me because I'm in your fortress. Okay. And so because of that, it says in verse 3, surely he will deliver you from the snare of the fowl and from the deadly plague. Outside of those walls of protection, we are left to our own devices and our own abilities to keep ourselves protected. And so what Psalm 91 is acknowledging is we can't do that very well. The fowler, basically that's a hunter, okay, and of course we know that the plague has to do with sickness and disease, all kinds of other things of that nature. We can't handle those things on our own. That's why he's in verse 3 he says, surely the Most High in his fortress and in his place of refuge, he'll deliver us from those who are hunting us, if you will, and the plagues that are pervasive throughout the land. And then it says he will cover you with his feathers. In verse 4, under his wings you will find refuge. This clearly is referencing some sort of bird. I would suggest to you that it's most likely an eagle. Now, all birds do this with their young. When their young are still in need of protection, one of the ways that the mother bird will protect them is by bringing them under her wings. Okay, so the psalmist is using that metaphor, if you will, to get the point across that the Most High does the same thing with his people. He's protective of his people. I would again suggest that he is thinking about what an eagle does, because an eagle is a strong bird. An eagle is a warrior bird, and that's more closely aligned with who the Father is. Okay, so we're able to stay under his wings and find refuge. And it says his faithfulness is a shield and a rampart. If we think about the New Testament, there is a passage in Ephesians chapter 6 where it talks about taking on the full armor of God. And part of the armor of God is called the shield of faith. Well, that shield of faith is his faithfulness. So that's part of our armor. And so that's what this is talking about. His faithfulness, talking about the Most High, is faithful to protect those that he loves, and therefore we see him as a shield and a rampart. And then it goes on to say, because you, talking to the Most High's people, because you have made Yahuwah your dwelling or your refuge, because you have made Yahuwah your dwelling, your refuge, the Most High. In other words, once we have acknowledged that we have an Elohim that is higher than any other God on the earth, whether it's gods that we have created, gods that have other purposes. Once we acknowledge that the Most High is higher than any other gods, and therefore he is our refuge, he is our dwelling, because of that, it says in verse 10, no evil will befall you. No plague will approach your tent. So one of the blessings of us reminding ourselves about our relationship with the Most High through this Psalm 91, Psalm 91 is an on-time and in-time psalm. In other words, and when I say in time, not E-N-D, but I-N, in time. This psalm is, so I'll say it another way. This psalm is relevant whenever and wherever we are, okay? Because it has to do with a relationship that we have with our Creator. And in that relationship, he is always protective of us. That's part of what he does. And just so that we know, because we as human beings are finite in our ways of thinking, and sometimes it's hard for us to understand, well, how can God do that for like billions of people? Okay. He's only one God. How can he do that? He has angels. All right. And he charges his angels to be in charge of protecting his children. Okay. And because of that, that's where we see that no evil will befall us, no plague will approach our tents. It's not that evil does not exist. It's not that plagues are not ever present. It's that they will not overcome us because we have made him our refuge and our dwelling place. So, and that's what this psalm is all about. So in essence, what it's saying is when you move into the blessing of the will of the Most High, part of that blessing, and I'm going to use the a better terminology. When you move into the covenant that the Most High has for us as his people, part of that covenant that he must adhere to is that we are under his protection. That's why Psalm 91 is so important, especially in this time and especially with our people in this time. We are moving through a time of great distress and great turmoil. We are moving through a time when we do have enemies. Our enemies have a desire to see the Most High's people destroyed, and they will do whatever they can to bring that destruction about. They'll use plagues, they'll use armies, they'll use the media, they'll use social pressure, they'll use whatever is at their disposal to destroy the Most High's people. What the Most High's people understand, those who are moving in Psalm 91, is we understand that. We recognize that we are in a state of war. That's what Psalm 91 is for. Psalm 91 is to let us know, even though we're in a state of war, there is a secret place for us. There is a place of safety for us, and it's in the covenant that we have with the Most High. But please consider that if we're not in covenant, or another way of saying that, if we're not in relationship with the Most High, we are not under his protection, not because he won't protect us. It's because we don't want to be under his protection. So that means that we are left to our own ability to protect ourselves. We lose that battle 100% of the time. Surely we can see that. And that's why Psalm 91 becomes so important, because once we understand Psalm 91, we are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We are more than conquerors through him that loves us. That relationship is a covenant relationship. But our part of the covenant is to find that secret place and abide in it. Okay. So when we do that, what he does, because he can reach his people wherever we are, in verse 11, he has angels specifically assigned to us as his individual children. He will command his angels concerning us to guard us as his children in all our ways. All of us have angels. We can't tell them what to do. They follow his will. And that's why the scriptures always talk about them going to and fro. Remember when Jacob, or remember the story about Jacob's ladder? Jacob was able to see in the spirit realm what is going on all the time. Okay, that and also remember when Jesus was talking to, I'm kind of skipping all over the Bible, but so I gave you an Old Testament example. Now I'm going to give you a New Testament example when Jesus and Nathaniel had their conversation. And when Nathaniel saw what Jesus was doing, Nathaniel said, "You are the Messiah." And he said, "Just because I told you what you were doing when you were under that tree, Well, you're going to see angels ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. He was able to see in the spirit the same thing that Jacob saw in the spirit, and we are able to see in the spirit the same thing as well. Okay, so why is that important? Sometimes we need assurance or reassurance that the Most High is ever present. And so every once in a while, it is good for us to see our own angels because they're there. And all you have to do, if you're a child of the Most High, all you have to do is just think about how many times you were protected and you didn't even know you needed it. How many situations were you saved out of or delivered from? How did that happen? It was angels doing that. And that's what verse 11 is saying. Those angels are under his command, and they are commanded to guard us in all our ways. They are the ones that lift us up in their hands so that we don't strike our foot against a stone. In other words, so that we don't stumble. All right. They're there to assist us. Now, if we don't want the assistance, they're also there to observe our disobedience, but they're not going to stop us from being disobedient. They can't do that. They don't have that assignment. Their assignment is when they ask for help, give it to them. That's their assignment. Then it goes on in verse 13, Yah has our front and our back. So in verse 13, it says, you will tread on the lion and the cobra. Lions and cobras are dangerous predators, okay? And he's telling us as his people, when we are living in the secret place of the Most High, we can walk on lions and cobras, which means that's why we're saying that the secret place is the place of prayer, but it's also the place of being in the underneath the wings and the protection of the Most High. And when we're in that state, it's through his ability that we're able to walk on lions and cobras. Okay. The lion always represents the apex predator. The cobra always represents that which attacks from below, but is just as deadly. So we're able to trample the young lion and the serpent. And it's interesting, it says young lion. Young lions are the strongest ones. They may not be the wisest, but they are the strongest. And then in verse 14, it says, because he loves me, I will deliver him. Now the Most High is speaking. Because he knows my name, I will protect him. Now it's using the masculine word of he, but you can put your own self in there. Because you love me, I will deliver you. Because you know my name, I will protect you. Verse 15, when he calls out to me, I will answer. Or when you call out to me, I will answer you. I will be with you in trouble. I will deliver you and honor you. These are all of the covenant promises that the Most High has for us as his children and his covenant people. And then in verse 16, it says, with long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. So when we find ourselves, as we do now, in an environment that is hyper hostile, extremely dangerous, and chaotic, there is a secret place that the Most High has for us. And when we dwell in that secret place, there's deliverance there, there's salvation there, there's protection there, there's everything that we need to fulfill our part of the covenant, which is in essence to believe him and to glorify him in everything that we do. Why is that important? Because during this chaotic time, when nothing is sacred anymore, and certainly nothing is permanent, this is permanent. That relationship that the Most High wants with us as his people is a permanent relationship. And it's an everlasting relationship, and it continues to grow. It as my brother used to say, my brother in the struggle used to say, and it don't stop. Okay. So That relationship is the way of deliverance for the Most High's people, for us as the Most High's people. So yeah, that's what we have. That's what we have as our meditation for this Shabbat, Psalm 91. I would encourage you to make Psalm 91 the psalm that you meditate on when you rise up and when you lie down, especially in these times. What the Father desires of us as his people is that we be established in his word. His word is the secret place. His word creates a relationship that not only protects us and keeps us, but it gives us our assignment to be shining lights in a world that is passing away. See, we're not at this point in time, just so that as we close, we understand the seriousness of these times. We're moving into a time where if we don't have that relationship, we are going to be destroyed, whether that's as an individual or whether that's as a people group. There is no other way but the way of salvation. Those are the times that we're living in. So yes, there are some people that say, don't get so exercised by what's going on. Stuff is always happening. Yeah, all of that is true. Stuff is always happening, but we're living here right now. And here and right now, these times are treacherous. So that's why the Most High gave us these scriptures. It was for times like these. It doesn't matter if there's going to be more times like these. I'm living right now, and you're living right now. We need a word for right now. And Psalm 91 is the Most High's word for us. So, Father, bless you and keep you. Father, make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Father, lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. We give thanks for his